Hey everybody, hey, welcome back to another live over here on the YouTube channel. Hey Dad. So we're not gonna be long, as I always say that and then we end up long. We're not gonna be long tonight, and we're gonna get into it. So this whole live I wanted to put together about should I buy or should I sell in 2026? If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to also like and share if this information makes sense to somebody that you know needs to hear the information. And um, and yeah, if you are watching the live, don't be scared to also comment and have conversation with us during this live. And that is the purpose of doing these lives, to have a live discussion and come together as a community to talk about real estate and what's happening in the housing market, particularly in the United States. And then, of course, I zone in all the time into my local market where I actually service clients at. But don't forget that I can also connect you with other realtors throughout the world in regards to any real estate needs that you might personally have. All right, so let's kind of jump into it. I wanted to create this live called Should I Buy or Sell a House in 2026? And I'm going to turn this music down some. I don't want it to be too loud. There we go. Should I buy or sell a house in 2026? Just because I've been getting these questions every time I talk to whether it be clients, future clients, whether it be family or friends or whatever. They're just asking me, what is the housing market currently doing? So let's first get into this article, and then we'll just have a candid discussion around maybe what you should try to do in 2026 in regards to buying or selling a house, because it's going to take some it's going to take some work. It's not like it was in 2021, 2022, where you could just turn around and you could just throw your house on the market. You didn't have to do any updates to the house. You could just say, hey, come and buy my house for $500,000 without having to put any work into it, allowing people to get kitchens back that were dated in 1970s, 1980s, whether it be, again, wood paneling on the walls. I think we discussed this in the last live, or whether it be, out-of-date carpet, different colors on the wall, different color tiling in the bathrooms from the 1970s, 80s type of homes, and then just wanting to put the house on the market as a seller and say, hey, I want $500,000 for something in which it's not up to date or current for someone that might be of a younger generation that possibly wants to buy. If you guys know, as time goes on, trends change, and people, as far as the younger generation, they have more of a different concept or what they're looking for when they buy a house. A lot of them don't really care as much for the conventional floor plan layout. They want more open spaces. They want more bright colors. They want more light in the space, more windows. So it's changing, and a lot of people that have homes that bought, back in the days in the 80s or the 70s or even in the 90s, they haven't done much work to them, or even maybe they haven't even put a new roof on the house, haven't done any new windows in the house, no new framing, anything, and they want $500,000 for the house. So if that is you, hopefully you listen to this live, and we'll talk a little bit about what you might need to do going forward to try to get your house on the market to sell, and just position yourself in a good way. All right, so let's get into this article first, and then we'll discuss that. Had that candid discussion at the end. Don't be scared to comment below if you're watching this on the replay. And here we go. It says home buyers. Can we do this? It says home buyers are gaining power in the housing market. Say 82% are real estate agents. And so this article, even though it says it's dated January 7, 2026, they did this poll back in 2025 of last year. So of course, as we all know, it takes time to get information to cycle forward. Like, again, real estate looks back, and then we move forward with the data. So it says, in today's article, we're sharing full results from the Q4 2025 Zoo Delio Resi Club Real Estate Agent Survey. To conduct our real estate agent survey, Resi Club partnered with Zoo Delio, a cash offer platform and iBuyer management software designed for real estate agents. Among the 204 agents who took the surveys, 51% have been real estate agents for 15 years or longer. The surveys was fielded from November 17 to December 29, 2025. Respondents included real estate agents spanning all regions of the U.S., giving us a ground level view of buyer urgency, seller motivation, leverage shifts, commission structures, and expectations for the next 12 months. So this is just a data and a survey that was made from a couple of agents around the United States in regards to buyers and sellers, buyers wanting to possibly buy and the seller's motivation and everything. So the first one says buyers urgency cools and leverage continues to shift away from sellers. Nationally, a majority, 55% of agents say buyer urgency is lower than it was 12 months ago. The pullback is more pronounced in the Southwest, where no agents reported seeing buyer urgency pick up. 65% reported seeing low urgency. So in the South, they're saying that the urgency of buyers wanting to buy a house, there hasn't really been an urgency for them wanting to buy even going forward in 2026. Yes, there's still some people that want to buy houses, of course, but the urgency as it was before in 2021, 2022, even a little bit 2023 has started to cool, where these buyers are realizing like, hey, everything in which was being kind of thrown at me on, whether it be social media, whether it be in the news in regards to buying a home, they're like, I don't want to buy a home no more. Now, people are seeing people who bought in 2021, 2022, these TikTok threads, these Instagram threads of people talking about they can't afford their home, their monthly mortgages. People can't, they were surprised to see tax increases because they bought new construction, didn't realize that the estimated taxes weren't correct. And even if you didn't buy a new construction, some people who bought resale homes saw some tax increases as well, because the local taxes in your area, property taxes increased in order to build out the infrastructure in the town or the city that you live in, right? Also, your home insurance might have increased due to all the different disasters happening, even though some home insurance carriers say that doesn't really affect different people around the world. However, we're not even going to just draw on that. We know that the replacement cost of building a house, if a house was once $200,000 at the time when it was assessed, and now it's $500,000. If your house was to get water damage, if it was to burn down, the insurance company is like, okay, now we need to be able to replace this built to today's standards, or make sure it's back up in a certain way, so that they will now have to up your replacement costs of your home insurance. So you might see your home insurance going up in regards to that possibly. And then outside of that, if you have an HOA, the HOA may say, well, guess what? The inflation has taken control. And with that inflation taking control, in order for us to service you as far as cut the grass, do any type of pool maintenance, anything that you might have in your subdivision, if you have amenities, we have to move that up as well. We have to also create reserve funds as well in case anything happens. So you're seeing different things kind of go up in price. And then depending on where you live at, you might see that the homes are possibly going down. So people feel like it's not equating. And because of that, we have a lot of people who had urgency before in the last couple of years wanting to buy a house. They no longer have that urgency to want to buy, because they're like, well, I don't want to get trapped in a home and might not be able to get out of it, right? So it says right here, how real estate agents characterize home buyer urgency in their market today compared to 12 months ago. Right here, you see the dark green is slightly higher. The pea green is significantly higher, is that hunter green. This pea green is slightly higher. This light pink is about the same. This kind of more of a pinkish is slightly lower. And then we have this burnt type of significantly lower color pink, whatever, in regards to characterizing what the buyers are looking at as far as their urgency. And so as you see, the Northeast, the urgency slightly higher, was only 5%, significantly higher, slightly higher. When it comes to the slightly lower, we saw that the home buyer urgency in the Northeast was slightly lower. Also, Midwest is like a bigger pool where the home buyers are not as urgent no more. Southwest, Southeast, we're seeing where that urgency has slowed. And right here, when you get to these southern states, it's slowed significantly compared to some of these northern or Midwestern states. And in the US in general, it's about 29%, 36%. It says this slowdown is underlined by a continued downturn of buyer demand, with 52% of the US agents reporting lower home buyer demand relative to 12 months ago. It says how real estate agents say home buyer demand in their market compares to 12 months ago. So this feels like a similar type of question to me. It said up here, it says more of an urgency about it. And this is how do they, I guess, as far as how real estate agents say home buyer demand in their market compares. So I feel like this is the same type of survey to me. Hey, what's going on, David? Thanks for joining tonight. Hope your Wednesday is going well. Thanks for tuning in, popping in real quick. I appreciate you always being here. And so it's showing right here that, again, the Northeast, the Midwest, and all these things in regards to home buyer demand, how the home buyer demand here is much lower in the Northeast. and as you get up here, you see much lower, much lower. So in the Northeast, you have about the same. They're saying it's about the same, but really when you come south, and if you go more really south, you'll see how the home buyer demand has really kind of slowed down. It's much lower. People are not really trying to buy as much in the south. If you guys don't know, as when the pandemic happened per se, a lot of people kind of shifted around, and more people kind of shifted to the south, might have took on some remote jobs, moved south. They felt like they could afford living down south. They thought to themselves, you get more square footage, you get a piece of land if you're coming from the north, let's say, maybe from the city part of the north, more like New York City, or maybe if you're from parts of New Jersey in the city, or possibly even like from the California, and some areas where you might not see as much land per se or square footage for the price you feel like you're paying. They all started to shift, whether it was to Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, and with that shift, it kind of created this home price inflation in certain areas where homes were more kind of affordable to the people that lived there. And now my problem that I'm kind of scared of, honestly, is that as these people stop migrating to certain areas, and particularly, let's just say where I'm at in Georgia, once they stop migrating, and they have already caused the prices to be astronomically higher than they should be compared to what people are making in that area. People that are born in Georgia, people who are Atlanteans, people who are in the surrounding areas that have a job that equates to how much they should be making as far as them living, everything has been pushed up. And now I'm like, when this migration stops happening, do we see it kind of deflate, or do we see it kind of level off where it still creates an unaffordability level where some of these people who live in that area can barely afford it? Because that's what kind of I feel like is happening as far as people shifting. They're messing up how things should be price wise. David said, Clark, how does the chart compare to what you are seeing in Atlanta? So what I'm seeing in Atlanta, I would say definitely we are seeing, as far as home buyer demand, we definitely are seeing a slower level of home buyer demand. Of course, like I tell people are still buying, regardless of what's happening, and it's always going to be this case. Even in 2007, 2008, 2009, people were still buying, right? It's just that people have decided to create more strategic plans to buy. And in this market that we're in right now, people should be looking at it in a strategic way, as if they are trying to buy or they are trying to sell. And again, that's why I'm doing this live as far as should I buy or sell in 2026, because you should be more strategic in what you're doing, right? If you are trying to buy. And so what we're seeing in the South, though, David, as far as even the Metro Atlanta area, we are seeing a slowdown of home buyer demand. A lot of people, unfortunately, as mentioned earlier, cannot afford to actually buy no more. They don't really make the amount of money to buy a house to afford that monthly income. And then also they have other debts, right? They factor in that debt to income ratio, and they have those other debts. So if they have a car, if they have any federal things that they have to pay off or whatever, any other expenses, credit card debt, student loan debt, when you start to factor all that in, it's harder. So most of the people are like, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to buy. And some of them also, they feel better just renting. They feel like, hey, I can be able to shift. If something happens, I can get out of this. Even if I got to get evicted, I can move on to the next. It's not like I'm losing much, but a lot of people feel like if I bought a house and I put so much into it, whether I put 20% down for conventional, 3.5% down for FHA, even if they didn't put anything down as a veteran or USDA, depending on what you're using as far as loan wise, people feel like after them getting into the house, they took care of the house maintenance wise. If anything broke or just to upkeep it, a lot of people, they don't want to either leave their house or they don't really want to. Most of them don't want to leave their house, so you're not seeing much of them sell, even if they're in a situation where they should get out the house, right? Hey, what's going on, Len? Good evening. Happy Wednesday. Yes, happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us on Wednesday. We're live Wednesday. I won't be live on Sunday. I mentioned that on the last live that I'll be live on Sunday, but I actually won't. So I'll be missing this Sunday, but I'm glad that we slip Wednesdays into our live. So if I'm gone on Sundays, I'll be out here on Wednesdays. If I'm gone on some Wednesdays, I'll be here on some Sundays. But we're going to try to make it Wednesday and Sunday, but this Sunday I won't be live. David said that makes sense. I agree. Yeah. So what are you seeing, David, in Omaha? Are you seeing kind of a slow as far as home buyer demand, or do you feel like it's still the same, similar in regards to that home buyer demand? It says, as buyers' demand softens and inventory continues to climb, 54% of U.S. agents now say sellers outnumber buyers, with 64% of agents in the Southeast noting the trend, reinforcing that buyers are gaining negotiating power as they move less urgently. So right here it says how real estate agents describe their local market. So the green again is buyers outnumber sellers. The pink, light pink, is buyers roughly equal sellers, and then the dark pink is sellers outnumber buyers. So as you can see right here in the Northeast, we have that right here that buyers still outnumber the sellers in the Northeast. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys might watch Jackie's channel, Jen Sylvester's channel, and they're always saying how they don't have as much inventory, and they have buyers that want to buy. So they're still kind of hot in the Northeast. Right here, the Midwest, as you can see, the Midwest, you have that the sellers, the buyers outnumber sellers right here. So it's not that low, but it looks like the sellers outnumbering buyers are starting to climb in this Midwest part of the country. And of course, the Southeast and the Southwest, we already have the sellers outnumbering the buyers. As you can see, buyers are cooling down here. It says roughly equal in between here. And then you have over in the West where the sellers are starting to outnumber those buyers as well. Moreover, the overwhelming majority of agents across all regions, 82%, agree that the leverage continues to shift towards buyers in their local housing market. How real estate agents say leverage in their local housing market is shifting. So again, the sellers are the green, the sellers are gaining power. The pink, light pink, is power isn't shifting, and then the dark pink is buyers are gaining power. So right here we see in the Northeast, they say the buyers are actually gaining power in the Northeast. So everywhere it seems like buyers are gaining some type of power, which is interesting because even though, as you can see, out of all of them, the Northeast still has that the sellers have some type of power right here, 15%. But a lot of the buyers are kind of gaining control because, as we know, with home prices climbing or more expensive depending on where you live at, most people don't want to purchase a house for $500,000. Most people don't feel like the value of a house is worth $500,000. People feel like that typically, once you start breaking everything down, right, you can feel like possibly that a house could be a depreciating asset. Yes, we know over time it appreciates, but we also know that it can depreciate as well. And people might feel like if I always have to do the maintenance of the house, I got to put on a new roof, I got to do the HVAC system, the water heaters, I got to, renovate it to be up to date as far as if I'm trying to sell it in the future. If I'm putting on, some people like to put the what's it called? The things on the roof for the electricity. I forget what they're called. The panels. You guys know what I mean. All those type of things that you got to kind of pay into over the time and add value into your home and expenses. Let's say a pipe in your house breaks. Let's say electricity, something goes wrong with your electrical panel. All these things that might occur with owning a house, they have to fix. So they feel like this is an asset that I bought, but at the same time, it could be, almost like a money pit where I feel like it's draining where so much money out of me that it's really more of a depreciated asset, right? And some people might look at the appreciation part of the house as actually the land in which it's on. So they look at the land as appreciating, but they look at the house as a depreciating asset. However, we know, typically as years go on, we do see things appreciate through time. But I always say everything is worth the value you put on it, whether you're a buyer or a seller, whether you're a person just going in the store, right? Everything, any type of value we put on something, that's what we feel like it's worth. But everybody has their own thing of what they feel like things are worth. Lang said, I forgot to hit the button earlier. Sorry, LOL. That's okay. If you guys don't be shy, hit that like button for us so we can kind of get pushed through the algorithm. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And don't be scared to enter the chat if you're watching and you're able to on your phone to have conversation with us. David said, I would say personally, it is in the green. Okay, so you guys are doing pretty good over there then. You have more in regards to the sellers than the buyers. Overall, it seems like activity is up and we are off to a good start. That's good. We have had some nice weather, so I think that also helps. Yeah, so that nice weather got people out there shopping and looking for a house. It always does that, right? It gets people out there like, let's go out here and let's look for a house. I always tell people that it is good if you can. Look at a house when it's raining, especially a resale house or even a new construction. Look at it in the rain. Because if there's any type of ways in which water might possibly come through the house, whether it be the roof or leaking somewhere or some type of, even if the grass around the house, let's say, it's not allowing for the water to kind of soak in the right way, and it's creating puddles or some type of dampness around the house. You can kind of see that if you look at if you decide to go outside when it rains. But most people don't want to go out in the rain. But sometimes it's good to go out and look at a house in the rain. I was out this afternoon. Some sellers are living on fantasy land on their asking price. Oh, David, I know. I'm like, a lot of these people are living in la la land. And see, the problem is that most of these sellers that I don't know about in your situation, but I know most of the sellers that I'm having conversations with today are some of them that bought 2 or 3 years ago. So they are like, okay, I bought at $350 and I need to get out of this house. And even though they might see a certain area that wherever they're at, because every area is different, right? Every market is different, even depending on what market you're in. If you're in a certain city, every neighborhood can be different, right? As far as what the prices are looking like, how things are trending. And so some people are like, hey, my house is worth this. And then we do like a market analysis in their area. We start in a subdivision just like appraisers do. And then if we don't find anything that sold within the last 3 to 6 months, we then start to span out things that are comparable, right? If you're in a townhouse, we can't say, and if you're in a community that has townhouses and single family homes, we can't turn around and we can't turn around and be like, hey, your house is worth what a single family house is worth if you're a townhome, right? That's not how an appraiser goes about appraising the property. They're going to take similar and like kind properties to appraise your house, and that's how they're going to start. And if they can't find it in your subdivision, they'll work out and they'll try to find something that's similar. They're not going to say, okay, we can't find anything in your subdivision as a townhome, now we're going to use a single family house. That's not how they typically do it, because they do appraise for that not only the structure but like around that land and everything as well. So with that being the case, you have some people who bought a house a couple years ago, and in that particular subdivision, we have several houses selling that have closed. And with them closing, we can see the data right in front of us, right? And so some people are like, my house is worth $450, and meanwhile, everything in your neighborhood is closing now at $390. So it's not worth that. And so that's what I'm kind of seeing when I'm talking to sellers. And unfortunately, it sucks for me, of course, because you want to make sure you can help people and service them through their real estate journey. But I have to tell some people that unfortunately I can't work with you, because I'm not in the business of trying to live in la la land with everybody. I'm in the business of trying to make you make informative decisions based off of the data, and make sure the numbers work for you in order to get you to where you need to be at when it comes to either entering a house or exiting a house. And also we don't want to just, I think a lot of people don't realize that, and when it comes to real estate, and maybe some people do it, I don't know. Well, I do know people do it. I think a lot of people don't realize that real estate to me is a real career. It's a real profession. It's not a game. I know, the TV shows, the Instagram makes it look like it's a game, because I feel like some of these agents make it look like it's a game now. But it's not. So when I come and I sit down and I actually take the time to talk to you, to work with you as a possible client, and hopefully develop a friendship outside of it, if possible, or just some type of relationship going forward, I'm not there to create a false narrative or a fake narrative in your head. I'm there to actually sit down, show you the information, show you the numbers, have a great conversation, make sure it makes sense for you. Of course, at the end of the day, if it doesn't make sense to you, as far as what I'm saying, I'm okay with saying, okay, I understand I'm not the best person to work with, and I just keep moving, right? I can't force nobody, to see what I see as far as me pulling data. Sorry. David said, it was 60 degrees today, beautiful, almost like San Diego. Wow. Or we were in a time warp, and I was showing homes that on the market 10 years in the future. Yeah, I'm like, it probably, like a time warp, 10 years in the future. I'm like, 10 years in the future, you probably could get your number, right? 10 years in the future. But right now, depending on where you're at, again, it's all local to your area. But depending on where you're at, the numbers, some people are not going to get what they want, unfortunately, if they're selling and they just bought a couple years ago. This is what I'm telling most people too. If I'm talking to somebody that actually is a home seller and they bought the house prior to the whole pandemic situation, right, in 2000, beginning of 2020 and the latter part of the years, right? Make sure I'm saying it right. So 2019, 2018, 17, anything prior to that, and you've been in your house, most of those people that might have bought in the 90s or the late 80s, they typically, unless they refinance throughout the years, most of them might have their mortgages paid off, right? So they're sitting on a nice penny as far as selling their house. Even if they bought their house back in the 90s or the late 80s for, say, $80,000, $120,000, they can now possibly sell for $300,000, $400,000 and still be able to take home a big profit. I definitely understand in regards to people now trying to sell, right? They're like, okay, well, I don't have a mortgage and I want to get out of this house and get into another house. I want to downsize. I need to relocate and I don't have a mortgage. So I don't really want to experience having a mortgage again. So how can I get X, Y, and Z? Because houses being more expensive now that you're trying to get out of a house that you own and you've been used to not having a mortgage and just paying property taxes, or maybe you had a low mortgage and your mortgage is under $1,000, maybe under $500. And so people are like, well, how do I want to get out of this home and I don't want to pay. And with homes being more expensive, some of these people might have to be in a mortgage situation, right? So we're seeing some sellers too in this situation where like they're trying to get out of homes because they don't have anything, but they also don't want to go into anything else. And so that becomes a tricky part too, right? Some people are luckily able to do it where you're seeing more of these cash purchases happening, right? Depending on where you're at. You'll see these transactions where people are paying cash for these houses now, because those might be those people who had those older homes or bought back in the day. They were able to ride the wave of this pandemic where the inflation, the equity inflated, and they were able to grab that money and go and buy another house and pay cash. And they're still sitting in a situation where they don't have a mortgage, even though the property taxes might have, went up a little higher. But in certain states, you have exemptions, right? Jersey, they don't have a homestead exemption. So if you're in Jersey, unfortunately, you don't have it. Homestead, whatever. But in Georgia, you have a homestead exemption and you have other exemptions as far as senior exemptions. You have school exemptions. I think Jersey might have a senior type of exemption. So you might have to look into that if you're in Jersey. But a homestead, it doesn't. So some people are able to, with those exemptions in Georgia, kind of freeze those taxes and see lower taxes. If you're a veteran, a disabled veteran, you're able to kind of see some of that as well. So it just depends. So again, we're in a market now in 2026 and going forward until we kind of level off, that if you're buying or selling in this market, in this time frame, you need to be very strategic. Sit down and do the work. Do the work. All right, let's get back into the article, because if not, I'm going to go on a tangent, because I have these conversations every day with different, people want to sell or people want to buy. And even with my colleagues, we talk about this as well in regards to how a lot of people come to us nowadays as real estate professionals, and they ask these questions, and then when you start to give them resources to do the work, a lot of people don't want to do the work. A lot of people don't want to sit down. We have a lot of people in la land, and it's okay if you're in la land. I get it. I have moments that I go in la land as well, not in regards to real estate, but just in regards to life in general. We all have a moment where we are in la land. So I totally understand. But we have to become very serious when it comes to making sure you as a person get what you want in your journey of homeownership, whether you're buying or selling. All right. Okay, let's go to here real quick. It says, as buyer urgency fades, seller urgency rises. Nationally, 45% of agents says seller urgency is higher than it was 12 months ago, led by the West 51%, Southwest 48%, and Southeast 46%. In these regions, fewer sellers appear willing to wait for conditions to improve. By contrast, the Northeast looks more stable. 55% of agents there say seller urgency is about the same as a year ago. So it says how real estate agents characterize seller urgency in their markets compared to 12 months ago. Again, you see where it says right here, they say significantly lower as far as the seller urgency. So it seems like the seller urgency is low in all these states, really, per se. And then you got a lot that's kind of the same. Most of it's like the same. And then it says right here, slightly higher. So you see the difference. All right, we'll go down here real quick. We're going to skip through all this because that's talking about different stuff that we don't really, it's talking about NAR stuff, commission stuff. I don't think you guys want to hear about that. We want to hear about what's going on with the buyers and the sellers. That should you buy or sell in 2026. It says, meanwhile, about 10% of U.S. agents say they have discussed iBuyer cash offers. So if you guys don't know what iBuyers are, they are investor buyers. So like, let's say Open Door, OfferPad, those type of investor buyers, institutional like investor buyers and things like that. Options with clients very often in the past. These conversations are most common between agents, clients in Southwest and Southeast. So they're saying we're having more of these conversations in the Sunbelt states. Excuse me. And right here it says, where it says, how often real estate agents say they discuss iBuyer cash offers with clients over the past 12 months. And as you can see, very often is the green, this navy green. And you see in the Southwest, Southeast states, they're getting more conversations where some of these clients, and I actually had a conversation with a client in regards to this about 2 years ago, actually, when they were trying to buy, they were listed on the market, they weren't expired, they were listed on the market with another agent. I happened to reach out to them, and they said that at this point they didn't have no interest as possibly putting it back on the market again, listening with a regular agent. They just wanted to go that iBuyer route. And so I had connected them with, which I don't really care for them, but I did connect them with Open Door, because at the time, I believe OfferPad, was it OfferPad? One of them, you couldn't have had the house listed on the market already. It had to be a house off market with somebody that wants to list, but it couldn't have been listed already. So that's what off market is. It's off market where they're trying to sell it off market before they bring it actively on the market to list. And in that situation, so they couldn't go that route. I believe it was OfferPad. Trying to remember, but I think it was. So that's why they went the Open Door route. And Open Door, I don't know. I think I might have had this conversation. I definitely have a video in regards to my experience with Open Door. I've experienced a lot with them, but it's just not the best experience with Open Door. So if you want to know about that situation in regards to this client, it's in that video. Just go inside my videos and click that Open Door. I think it was like my horrible experience with Open Door, something like that. All right. The next, I don't know how you guys are feeling in regards to what we're talking about. Again, people want to know, should I buy or sell in 2026? So let's get into that discussion real quick. I'll just have a candid discussion with you guys in regards to should you buy or sell in 2026, and then we'll talk about big changes supposedly coming to the real estate in 2026, and then we'll have the last discussion in regards to Donald Trump stating that he wants to ban institutional investors. So in regards to buying in 2026, so if you're on the buyer side, as stated earlier, just like the seller side, you want to make sure you're going to set yourself up, create a strategic plan. Make sure you're writing things down. I think a lot of people nowadays are moving like this whole go with the flow situation. It's okay to go with the flow, but you need to have a plan in this type of market. So be very strategic. Write down your financial goals. Write down, as a seller, you want to make sure your agent sits down with you and does a seller to net sheet if the agents have that on hand. You want to make sure as a seller as well, that agent pulls those comparables. If you could possibly see anything that happened that might have sold off market as well. Understand if something sold lower than what you expected to sell. See if it was a short sale, foreclosure, an estate sale. See what type of sale it was. So if the appraiser comes, when the appraiser comes, if it's not a cash offer. So sometimes with cash offers, some people don't care for the appraisal. But if with financing, typically people will do care for the appraisal, because of course the bank needs to have that. Make sure that they're going to give a loan to you in regards to that asset. They want to make sure the asset is valued correctly. So needless to say, make sure as a seller, you're doing that seller to net sheet. Understand what those houses that sold, why they sold, and what was the purpose of them selling for, what they sold for. If you can, as agents, we also have access to the terms. See what type of buyers bought those houses. So was it conventional? Was it FHA? Was it VA? Sometimes it may say other, because it might be mixed with some other things, and it might be, some other type of financing might have happened. It can say also cash. Understand who's buying. Outside of that, when you're doing the seller net sheet, when you take those comparables, take the highest amount, take the break-even amount for you as a seller, right? So this is the lowest that you can go that makes sense when you do that, when you do the math on those seller net sheets, and this is the highest. So even if you have a list price that you feel like this is what I want, as long as it's not la la land, as long as it makes sense with everything else that's selling in that neighborhood, that could be the highest point, then you find your lowest point, right? And then you do all that math in between. So this is being very strategic on the seller side in 2026 and going forward until this market kind of flattens out and we see a change or more of a softer balance right now. Because, and again, it just depends on where you're at. But I guess this can go more for if you're in my area. But you want to make sure you do that as a seller. You also want to be okay as far as when you do that seller net sheet, put in all those extra possible expenses, right? Just factor in possible concessions. Factor in, also understand if you didn't pay your taxes, put that in there as well. Anything that might be prorated, any HOA dues that you might have not have paid. Make sure you don't have no liens. Make sure your title is clean. Get all this stuff in line. And make sure this is done during the whole process of you meeting with a realtor to make sure you set your stuff up strategically the right way. Understand now, because of the commission situation that we have, understand what type of way you want to kind of go about negotiating your compensation, right? To the buyer side as a seller, you want to make sure, hey, do we give a certain percentage to the buyer side? Do we leave it to negotiating terms as far as when the offers come in? You want to know all this stuff. Is it a flat fee? We want to kind of put all this down. Really lay everything out as a seller, okay? I don't know if that makes sense, but please lay everything out. Lang said, yes, be strategic, have a plan, write it down, save. Yes, definitely save. If you're on the buyer side, so we'll switch to the buyer side. If you're on the buyer side, make sure you understand what the market is doing in your area, because every area is different. Even as we see national headlines saying prices are declining or softening, you might be in certain areas where prices are going up. Like, we have two different markets happening right now. In the Northeast, we have another market happening where homes are staying steady. Prices might be possibly rising by a certain, like maybe 2 to 3% appreciation. Then you come to the South, we see prices depreciating. And then you come to certain areas in the South or certain neighborhoods. I say the Metro Atlanta area, you got one area staying steady. You see possible appreciation. And you see other places kind of dipping crazy with the prices. You see people throwing homes up that bought 2-3 years ago, that bought at one amount, and now they're selling it for less than what they bought it for. So understand and create that strategic plan. Have that conversation with your realtor. Don't be scared to have conversations. I think a lot of people nowadays are scared to have conversations and talk. And I don't know if it's this whole thing of feeling like everybody's trying to sell to them outside of just asking questions. Just ask a question, right? I feel like people are scared to do that now. Everybody's not trying to sell to you. Everybody does not want, to close a deal once they talk to you. Have conversations, understand what you're doing. Make sure you create a plan. And like Lane said, save. You want to make sure you save. Because once you buy a house, again, you have the maintenance of the house. You have possible property taxes might, increase a little bit more. So your escrow might change. You also have, if you're in an HOA, they might have new special assessments might take place, right? You might buy the house, and then once you get into the house, let's say next month or a month later, they have a whole HOA meeting and they're saying things are going up because the monthly dues can't afford what they currently are, right? So those might happen. Like I said, the maintenance of the house, you might need hopefully you don't go into houses that need new roofs, but you might need a new roof if a storm happens, if different things happen, and if you don't want to use your home insurance, because again, we also know we want to make sure when it comes to home insurance, even though you have home insurance, you want to make sure if I'm going to use this, I use this the right way, and I don't just use home insurance to abuse it, because it will unfortunately hurt you in the long run if you decide that you need to move in a year or two, and then they see all these home insurance claims and all this stuff. It might hurt you as far as buying another house if you need to get out of one house and get to another house. So just be very strategic, write things down, understand what you're going through. It says, I'm no pro, but selling a house to invest in metal seems like the better profit at the moment. Like as money dies, no one can afford your rent. Seems like gold paying better PW than rent is. I'm not sure what PW is, but yeah, if you're into investing or stock investing, thank you for commenting tonight. I don't want to say your name, I'll mess you up. But I'll call you Kay. Thanks for commenting tonight. Yeah, but if you're into, investing in stocks or something, if you want to put your money somewhere else to possibly accrue some type of interest in the meantime, if you're trying to possibly buy in the future, that might be another way to go. They did say, it is an article that we're going to pull up too real quick. So yeah, so when it comes to buying or selling in 2026, I hope some of that information helped you guys. We'll dive into this other article. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you guys are thinking in regards to buying or selling in 2026. Is it something that you want to do? Is it something that you ultimately want to do? Because you just gotta make sure, and don't. And this is the big thing I tell too, right? People, it's okay to put as much, I guess, dependence on your realtor, but don't overly depend on your real estate agent to do the work for you. As a realtor, we do our due diligence, but as a buyer, you do your due diligence as well. As a seller, you do it as well, right? We can give you tasks to do, we can give you resources, but if you're not doing it, then you can't fault us for your non-execution. And I feel like sometimes people, and it's just in life in general, we fault other people for stuff that we failed to execute. And so because you failed to execute it, the accountability shifts to somebody else instead of you taking instead of you being accountable to your own actions. So as an adult, as we grow up, as we become, more wise, more mature in our lives, and we try to live out adulthood, which is very hard, you realize that you should want to be a kid again. But needless to say, we have to take responsibility. Everybody, if it's something that you really want to do, you're going to execute it correctly, right? Every day, you even though you do stuff you don't want to do. If you had a job you don't want to work at, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you don't want to work, you don't want to really be at that job, but you do it, right? So if you really want to buy a house, if you really want to sell your house, you're gonna do the right things to get the job done. So treat it as such, right? I feel like a lot of people they want to do it, but then they blame it on other people for why they didn't do it. So just I don't know. I feel like I'd be going on rants. I think because I have these conversations all the time with clients and other colleagues about real estate. And so every day, if I really wanted to, I could come on the live every day and just talk. Because I feel like every day I just be like, Lord Jesus. But yeah. So sorry, y'all. I'll be going on rants. Thanks, David. He said great advice. Thanks. I'm calling you K again. PW. Oh, per week. Sorry. Okay, per week. Thanks for having me. No problem. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you stopping by and engaging in the chat. I always love when people engage in the chat. Don't be scared. We're here to talk. Anything you got to say, as long as it's respectful. We're having a conversation. I'm here to engage. So appreciate you, buddy. So yeah, let's talk about this real quick. It says big changes could be coming to real estate in 2026. And so we'll talk about this. It says, though home sales inventory prices are expected to continue slowly normalize in 2026, already shaping up to be a topsy-turvy year for real estate. This trend is in keeping with the past 3 years. Buyers and sellers have been stuck in persistently low gear market. The industry itself has faced some fundamental questions about how it operates. In 2023, the Sitzer-Burnett verdict threw buyer agent commissions into turmoil. So as you guys know, that was the situation in regards to how we kind of facilitate compensation now, or commissions to the buyer side, as far as when it comes to you as a seller and not wanting to possibly pay that buyer agent commission. David said, you are not alone. You said me too. Yes, David. It's like, oh Lord. And like, these are the and you have these conversations, and it's just like, you just pray and hope, that people I feel like a lot of people shift what they failed to do on you, and then they make you feel like you're the bad person. You're like, wow, I've done so much. But yeah. So houses don't have income potential except for the long-term investment. Buying land and keeping animals will give you weekly tangible assets, accessible in terms of meat, eggs, milk. Yeah, I like that. I agree. Definitely, buying. The thing about real estate is a long-term gain, and then also to be able to utilize your real estate to make you money too, right? That's the whole thing of why people, mom and pop investors, or even these institutional investors, that's why they invest in the asset as far as that structure on the land, which is the house, in order to put people in there to possibly, cash flow monthly if they can. And then, like you said, and even in regards to like buying land and putting animals like livestock on that land, that agricultural land, where you can produce other assets to actually make some type of money. So I agree with you there, Kay, in regards to like buying land and that long-term asset and that investment. That I think if people took their mindset and kind of flipped it as far as how can I utilize this asset to work for me, to hopefully sustain me and help me make money in the future, I think the way in which people possibly buy real estate might change. A lot of people, and we know most people don't buy and they don't think like that, right? Some people just buy because they love the house, they love the neighborhood, they love the school for their kids to go to school in. And some people don't really care if they make any money off of the asset in which they buy, right? They just know they have an asset, possibly if they keep the house up, if they don't let it, go to shambles, because some people don't take care of their assets. And so, people, we all as human beings, we have different ways of thinking. So, but I agree in the sense of buying something to create a tangible asset for you in regards to that land, that any type of that real estate to draw that forward. So I agree with you on that one, Kay. So right here it says settlements followed in 2024. For a moment, it seemed like a fresh start might be on the horizon. Instead, 2025 brought a new round of lawsuits over private listings and monitoring membership as the commission's settlements face new appeals. With all of this in mind, the stage is set for 2026. Here's what some industry players predict will happen in the coming year. Buyer agent commissions settlements could be overturned. So they're saying that this whole settlement that we went through could possibly be overturned. On his notorious Rob Substack, real estate consultant Rob Hand admitted that his predictions are geared more toward provoking discussion than correctly forecasting the year ahead, but they do raise interesting questions. His first prediction of 2026, the Sitzer, Burnett, and Gibson settlements will be overturned. Those deals created a settlement fund for some home sellers, totaling about $1 billion, and led to policy changes at the National Association of Realtors regarding how buyer agent commissions are handled. If Hand's dozy of a prediction comes past, it would create a new wave of industry turmoil. The cases are currently in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. Oral agreements are scheduled for January 14th, and a ruling is expected to follow later in 2026. If three-judge panel decides to vacate settlements, it would be pure chaos for the industry, Hand wrote, adding that the suspects are revamped settlement would need to have higher monetary damages, mandate more extreme policy changes, or both. We just spent a year putting new rules in place, entirely new systems and cases, changes to forms, and millions of man-hours spent on training agents on how to do business under the settlement, Hand wrote previously. All of those go out the window, he noted, adding that there will be uncertainty as to what the new rules will be if the settlement negotiations begin anew. So again, this is in regards to, as you guys know, the National Association, they saw the change as far as how the compensation was structured in regards to the buyer agency compensation from the seller to the buyer and vice versa per se. So if this decides to change again, or if another ruling occurs again, it will be a whole 180, a whole 180. So we're going to kind of be on the lookout for that, see how that ruling goes, and see if there are any changes that will occur with that. But owning land, building a farm will take up your time. A house, you can do basically nothing, freeing up your time for other income ideas. Yeah, exactly. I definitely agree. The owning the farm and everything, it definitely will take up your time. The herding of the cattle, making sure they're eating correctly and putting everything in line. So again, that's about creating systems, putting systems in place. Hopefully, it can run for yourself. Maybe you can hire somebody on your team that can take care of that farm for you. You never know, right? But definitely, buying a house, getting a house and renting it out it kind of works by itself, but you still need property management involved if you don't want to do it yourself. Somebody to kind of maintain and that go-between person if you don't want to be that main person, in which if something breaks in the house, something needs to be repaired, collect your rent as well. You need that extra assistance there. So, but it says MLS. All right, let's see. So I'm trying to make sure we do this consolidation. Okay, let's see. Redfin predicts that the NAR will continue shifting its efforts from making rules from MLS services to advocacy, and as it does, the consolidation of smaller MLSs into bigger networks will accelerate. So this is talking about the MLS. MLS will be more apt to set their own rules. Redfin analysts believe, especially since NAR updated its MLS handbook to give local MLSs more discretion in creating and enforcing policies. But with more than 500 MLSs across the U.S., a lack of standardized rules could be confusing for consumers. That confusion will, if anything, highlight the value of having an agent who is very knowledgeable about their local MLS. Redfin chief economist Daryl Fairweather told Real Estate News during a recent phone interview. So they are trying to kind of consolidate these smaller MLSs. It'll be very interesting in regards to the MLS. Hey, what's going on, Donna? Thanks for joining. We appreciate you being here. I appreciate everybody that jumps on, jump in the chat. If you have any questions, just want to tell us what's going on, don't be too scared to do so. And if you guys are watching this video on the replay, don't be scared to let us know where you're watching from. How did you get over to the channel? And please subscribe to the channel. We are trying to get up to 2,000 subscribers, hopefully by the end of February, if we can do so. So I appreciate you guys, and don't be scared to always, you can reach out as well. People reach out to me, they text me, they call me, they email me. My phone number is in my bio. So, well, it's my business phone number. So it doesn't connect directly to my personal cell phone number, but it does connect to my business phone. So if it's a delay with me getting back to you, I apologize. I don't have my phone on me at all times, but I will get back to you. A rise of the lifestyle renter. So this is what we were kind of gauging a little bit about Kay in regards to, possibly people wanting to rent. It said, amid affordability challenges and persistently high home prices, Zillow expects a growing share of Americans will choose to rent to better fit their lifestyle preferences. The prediction is based in part of Zillow's 2025 Consumer Housing Trend Report, which found that only 37% of renters respondents said that they would buy a home even if mortgage rates dropped, down from 45% a year ago. So more people are becoming they're not optimistic no more and wanting to buy. They prefer just to rent. The survey also found that nearly 60% of respondents plan to continue renting in 2026. Meanwhile, Zillow anticipates that rent affordability will improve in most of the biggest markets in 2026, with apartment rents expected to rise 0.3%. So they're saying that the apartments will rise as far as the rents. However, we're going to get into that rent report, and then so let's get into this rent report real quick. And then we're going to go and hit the last topic, which is Donald Trump wanting to ban institutional investors. And so let's see Zillow's consumer when it comes to renting. So if you guys are renting right now, and what's making you, wanting, well, I know why, the affordability level, but have you ever wanted to possibly own anything, whether, buy a house, similar to what Kay said, maybe you want to buy some agricultural land or some type of land in general. What's kind of keeping you stuck if you feel like you're stuck out, and I know the affordability. It definitely is. So let's see what Zillow stated in regards to their renters consume results as far as that. It says renters results from the Zillow Consumer Housing Trends Report. So this was in 2025, but it's predicting going forward in 2026 as we are in the new year. It says the research approach to gain a comprehensive understanding of U.S. Zillow group population science conducted 6 nationally representative surveys, each sampling at least 6,500 renter respondents. In total, the surveys contain information from over 24,000 unique renters, more than 5,700 recent renters, and 18,600 tenured renters. Participants were allowed to take more than one survey. The study was fielded between March and July of 2025. So let's go down here. Let's go down to the sales right here. All right, so in the news, and new in 2025, it says negotiating for rental concessions and perks. It says 58% of recent renters said concessions were advertised or offered up front. So people are like, well, I'd rather rent because they are saying that the first month of rent is free, or the second month of rent is free. And sometimes when they do that, they might say the first month of rent is free, but what they're possibly doing is they're splitting it across the rent, right? So if the rent is $500, they tell you first month of rent get 1 month rent free. So the first month rent might be $250, second month rent might be $250, and then they say that way. I always tell people if they're giving out any type of perks in regards to that, like the free rent or 1 month rent free, 2 months rent free, ask them, is it possible to split that amount throughout 12 months? Instead of just, going the first 2 months or the first 3 months or whatever, say, is it possible that I can split this rent throughout the 12 months? And then that way it can take a discount off of each month. Find other creative ways to kind of negotiate or get those perks when it comes to the renting part. 25% of recent renters successfully negotiate for concessions in themselves. Yes, and if you are currently renting somewhere and they're like, oh, your rent is going up, you can say, you can go out. This is what I did for somebody before, where I was like, okay, let's just look around and see what the rent is doing. I'm like, I don't do this for everybody. So I don't want to I hope everybody don't flood my email. Like, can you do it for me? I'm just saying this is something that you could possibly, do for yourself as well. But you can go out, you can see whatever the rents are going around you or whatever, see what they're currently offering online at a particular apartment complex. If you're in a single family house, see what other things are rent for you around you, see where the rent price is at, and then negotiate accordingly to whatever you're seeing, right? So if the rent's not moving up and they're trying to move your rent up, ask them, why are you trying to move my rent up? And if they tell you X, Y, and Z, it's like, well, this is what the rents are going for in this area, and I don't want to move my rent up. So, and depending on how you're renting, the landlord might say, well, then you're not renewing your lease. Or some landlords say, okay, no problem, we'll keep it as such. Negotiate. Everything is negotiating. You have negotiating power. Everybody has negotiating power. 17% selected both their landlord advertised at least one, and they negotiated for another. It says, which concession renters considered the best? Reduced rent, 27%. This is the top concession. So 27%. First month rent free, 17%. Something else. Says this indicates a notable portion of renters value concessions not specifically listed in other categories. More than the first month rent free. So people wanted more than the first month rent free. Free discounted access to paid property amenities, laundry, internet, etc. Reduced security deposits. Some people wanted a reduced security deposit. This ties with free discounted amenities, including indicated moderate preference. Parking. Some people negotiated the parking incentives. A gift card. Okay. And the broker fee. So I'm guessing that's if you're in New York or some of those areas that you need brokers to possibly rent. And Georgia, you don't need a broker. So then this kind of goes down to those different concessions. This talks about the different staging and everything. So if you are trying to rent, and you don't see a value as far as, buying in 2026, and you just want to relax and kind of see how the market settles down and trends throughout the years, then those are things you should be asking for as a renter. Go in there, use your negotiating power before it flips and you won't be able to do it. Definitely use that as things are trending down and as we're seeing an uncertain and a wonky looking economy, start hitting people where it hurts. And then we'll get on the last topic and we'll be out of here so I don't keep you guys all night. What happened to the last thing? Did it disappear? The last one is in regards to your President Trump. You see how I said that? I said your president. Your President Trump in regards to wanting to ban institutional investors in 2026. Says Trump taking steps to ban corporate home purchases. Last month, Donald Trump promised to announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. And what could be Trump's first big reform initiative of the new year, the president has proposed a significant limitation on corporate home purchases, a ban on institutional investors. Trump took to Truth Social earlier today, announcing his intention to prohibit certain investors from scooping up single-family properties. So he said, this is the key word, certain investors. We need to kind of, stay on that word, because there's always the wording in which people say, I'm immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. The president wrote in January 7th post, people live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic, including further housing affordability proposals and more at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks, he added. HUD Secretary Scott Turner, who has advocated for housing reform and deregulation and more residential construction, responded to the news on X, stating that the president is not afraid to take bold action to make housing more affordable for American people. So my whole thing when it comes to even building new housing in regards to new construction is that if we're going to build new construction and we're going to deregulate some of these zoning laws, like the permitting and all that stuff, as far as taking so long for these things to get built out, is that I also need to make sure when they're hiring people to do these new constructions, they're not hiring subcontractor to build these homes, and they're not built well, right? We need to actually hire, if you're going to hire a subcontractor, hire one or two, and that's all. Hire the construction part of the subcontractor, hire the electrician subcontractor, hire the plumber subcontractor. But we don't need subs on subs building these houses, because of that, we're not seeing quality built homes no more. Also, when it comes to actually building new construction homes, is that if you're going to build them and you're going to say they're affordable, make sure they're affordable. So even if what I know some of these new construction builders are doing now is that they're just building them smaller as far as square footage to create more of an affordable level per se. If you're going to do that, just make sure they are affordable. Affordability is not $500,000. It's not $400,000. It's not $600,000. That's not affordability. That's just you building more homes because you have access to to the deregulation that take place in regards to not taking so long for the zoning or the permitting and all those things. I actually want to see affordability. So if that is going to happen, create real affordability for American citizens to actually afford new construction homes if they want to buy those. Kay said, all night long, haha, it's 1:30 p.m. Thursday here in futuristic NZ. Okay. You said it's 1:30 p.m. Hey, I'm like, it's 7:30 over where I'm at. So you living out the daytime over there, the afternoon. And so, yeah, in regards to that, I said, if this policy proposal is successfully enacted, it could mark a big change for residential real estate. A recent report by Lincoln Institute of Land found that corporations, which include small local corporate buyers, own 8.9% of residential parcels in urban areas. Investors initially expressed alarm following the announcement, with stock prices dropping around 10%. For housing investors like Blackstone, Invitation Homes, and American Homes for Rent, those stocks were able to trim their losses, however, ending the day down about 5%. It says it's clear what the president means by large institutional investors, but if he's referring to companies that own more than 1,000 single-family properties, those investors have been expanding their portfolios. According to the Lincoln Report, 32 institutional investors collectively own 446,000 single-family homes in 2021. A decade earlier, no one investor owned more than 1,000 single-family home properties. So we kind of touched on this in another live in regards that we talked about investors exiting out of the market or trying to reorganize and liquidate their assets in their portfolio. But yeah, so that is the thing that Donald Trump is trying to take in his speech that he made via Truth Social. We'll see what happens. Not sure if he's in bed with any of these larger companies that, I know that prior to him getting into the White House, I think he had a discussion with the National Association of Home Builders in regards to trying to allow for more homes to be built, and of course affordability, and then the deregulation and all those zoning things. So we'll see what happens in regards to that new construction piece. But also when it comes to these corporate investors, as far as institutional investors buying these properties, we'll also see what happens. Depending on where you're living at, the institutional investors can be wiping up a lot of single-family homes. Some states, they barely have any there. And then you have states in which I'm in where there's a lot, it's about 25 to 30%, more like 30% and where I'm at. And then the counties vary too, as far as how much they might have in those particular counties that those investors kind of shifted to. So it just makes sense in regards to trying to create more of a playing field where people that actually want to be home buyers will have the opportunity to do so. And a lot of these corporate investors won't purchase in certain areas. So again, this is all specific to certain areas around the United States. It's not in every single state. But needless to say, I appreciate you guys joining me on this Wednesday night. As I mentioned earlier, we won't have a Sunday live this Sunday, but I will see you guys next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Thank you, Kay, for jumping on tonight. Thank you, Donna, as well, for tuning in. David, I appreciate you being here. Lang, thanks for coming through tonight. And then my dad, as always, thank you guys for jumping on. And I will see you all next Wednesday. All right, take care. Good night. Bye-bye.